Like, you need to know that if you ever are faced with this, like, you can move on, you can deal with this, and you can still live a good life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your life isn't over because someone's gone.
You're listening to Life After Losing Mom with me, Kat Bonner. On this podcast, you'll hear from other women who have lost their mom and discovered the exact coping strategies you need to get through the day and be in the best place you've ever been. Don't miss another episode of Life After Losing Mom. Subscribe today. More information can be found at katbonner.com/podcast. And if you'd like to join a group of like-minded women, head to Facebook and search for the Life After Losing Mom community.
My mom passed away in March of 2017. It was very unexpected. She went to bed completely fine and then never woke up. Like, she wasn't sick. There wasn't like anything going on. She just never woke up for the day. So very unexpected. She lived in a different state. So I went down and helped plan, all of those things that you don't remember right after it happens. It just seems like a big blur.
Absolutely.
At the time, I had 3 children. My kids were 12, 8, 12, 8, and 6 at the time. And all kids have been adopted. So we adopted the first set of 3 kids years ago. They had started to get to know my mom, and my mom would send things. I used to make fun of my mom because she'd go to the dollar store and buy things for the kids, but she'd send them in 3 separate packages where the postage cost like way more than the stuff inside. And she's like, but everyone needs mail. like whatever, just saying. It'd be easy. So she was like, stop, thank you. So she was like a great, amazing grandma. And it was really hard because her and I were really close.
Mm-hmm.
And he had just come up to visit me for my birthday when I turned 30 that February before she died. So stop. Thank you.
So where did she live?
She lived in Nebraska and I live in Minnesota.
Okay, so yeah, that was, oh God, it's good. They're both just really cold.
Yes, they are. They very much are.
Okay, so yeah, that was going to be one of our questions. In Nebraska? Okay. Cool. So that was going to be one of my questions if, like, your mom was alive when she, like, when you had kids.
She was first 3. And then surprise twins who are half siblings of my older kids.
Oh, wow.
In December they were born. We found out about them in November. First was contacted by social services because they found out she was pregnant. And if your kids get removed and parent rights terminated for previous kids, the others get placed in foster care until you figure out. And so what is your deal today?
So they're all adopted.
The oldest 3 are currently adopted. The babies are right now foster kids, but on May 1st, we're moving to the adoption track. So,
wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're very excited. So my mom was around and met my older 3 kids and was a super big part of their life, even from far away.
Okay.
But she wasn't for the babies.
Well, it's kind of nice that they're just like half siblings of like the other kids. So it's like, okay, it's not, I don't know, maybe that helps. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
I think it's been funny because like my middle daughter will say, oh, they're my real sisters. And I'm like, okay, but even if we adopted them or I had them, they'd still be your real sisters.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Cool. Well, thank you for sharing. I apologize about that. I'm very sorry for your loss. Let's see. So I guess if there's like, I don't have kids, so I cannot relate to the parenting facet, but I'm sure it's very taxing, different like milestones in life. And that's something that it's going to be a milestone for at least 18 years.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't really go away. So I'm sure a lot of listeners struggle with that. Is there one thing that you have found to be like extra helpful in, this process or?
Well, it's been kind of strange because I've had the kids before and the kids after. And so I think the hardest for me so far has been the kids that my mom knew because they struggle with grief and loss of losing their grandma and helping them walk through that while I'm also struggling has been really hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to talk right now. Like, I just would like to watch my TV show or something, you know, but they want to like talk about and miss her. And
How old are they?
14, 10, and 8.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, they're definitely, I'm sure the 14-year-old's definitely old enough to understand.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's hard to like put away my grief long enough to help them with theirs.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm just going to hold her so she's not crying.
It's okay.
You're so crabby.
And I'm sure there's not but like so much your husband can do because at the end of the day, it was your mom.
Exactly. And he's super sweet. Hold on. I'm going to get
It's
some
okay.
He's super sweet and like really supportive, but like he's never had a death in the family really, in his family.
Yeah.
So I think my mom's funeral was the first funeral he went to.
Oh my word.
So, which I'm glad. I don't want him to experience that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like when I'm having a hard day, I'm like, I can't explain why today is any harder than any other day. Like it just is.
It just is.
Right? He's like, well, are the kids being a struggle? And I'm like, no, like the kids are doing normal kid things. It's just today sucks. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Just not a good day. I mean, it's all it really boils down to. Yeah, and I think that's hard, like, especially having people that are supportive. But, yeah, I mean, it's almost like you don't know. I feel like, you know, from my experiences, like, you might not know how to help your kids in their grief process because you don't know how to help yourself.
Yeah. And they look at me like I have all the answers. And I'm like, guys, I cried like 20 minutes this morning after you left for school. Like,
I don't have the answers.
Right? We just got to get through the day and maybe it'll be easier tomorrow. And
So basically you think probably the main thing would be just like helping them in their grief while, you know, you help yourself? Or is it more like, because I mean, I guess people think about, I feel like they would think about asking their mom questions regarding parenting, but they don't ask their parents questions regarding how to support their grandkids when they pass.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And I think for the older kids, it's been their grief. But for the babies, we never had babies. When we got our older kids, they were 8, 5, and 3. So we've never done babies before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So for the babies, the hardest for me right now with them has been, oh my gosh, mom, is this normal? Or, oh my gosh, they won't stop crying. What should I do? Those kinds of things have been hard. Or like she made these homemade Christmas stockings for my whole family when we got our, and they're like adorable and cute. And then the other day I just like lost it because these babies aren't going to have that. And then I'm like, I have a plan. I'm going to get them out of storage this summer, and I'm pretty crafty. So I'm going to try and make them ones that look similar. To be fair, my mom made them, but my mom made me, so it's like she made them. Is my current thought process.
No, that is very much true. And the kids won't know unless you tell them at this point.
Exactly. Yeah, because they're little and they don't know. And I think that's hard too, knowing that they'll not meet her. They won't remember her. Like when the older kids talk about grandma or other things or share stories, because every summer we did a trip with her. I met her in some city in between where we are. Like we've done Sioux Falls, we did Des Moines. And we just stayed at a hotel and hung out and went to the pool and that kind of stuff. So my older kids have these memories, but the babies, they don't. So they're not going to know who I'm talking about.
And you almost, I feel like you have to like talk about it too. And it's like, it doesn't ever really get easier to talk about. I mean, it's like I can like help other people and talk about other people's grief. But if I sit there and talk about my own, it's just a slap in the face. And you're like, oh crap, like this is my reality. Yeah. But I feel like it's like, where's the balance?
Exactly.
Because and I mean, I bet your kids, like the things that you would ask, it's like you would ask your mom that anyways, regardless of your age. And now it's like you have to turn to Google and you have to look up all these like answers that they're not even getting the right answer.
Like Google is a scary place. Like
exactly.
I just want to hear, no, it'll be okay. They're babies. They're going to cry all night some nights.
It's okay if you like drop them. They're not going to die, like kind of thing. Like,
yeah. And my mom was very, I think supportive is the best word. Are you talking too? I think the best word. Like I'd call her when I had my older kids, and it was a big adjustment. We went from no kids to 3 kids, and they had past traumas.
Yeah.
So it was from foster care systems. So it was hard. And she'd be like, Katie, you're doing the best you can. Like,
Yeah.
you can't ask more from yourself than that. Like, and it's okay.
If you did that, they were around for like 2 years, if I did the math right.
With my mom before mom died?
Yeah.
Half, yeah, about 2 years, 2.5.
Okay. Wow, that's still barely even. I mean,
Right? And my sister, who was 12 at the time. No, I don't know how old she was at the time. She's like, here, I only had a grandma for a couple years. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, that's not fair. I'm sorry. That sucks. You should have had a grandma a lot longer.
You should have had a grandma the whole 12 years you were living.
Exactly. Like from 0, you should have had a grandma that loved you like this. Like that's just how it should have been.
And I think that's where like the difference really comes in between a mom and a dad, because moms are moms. Like I'm not saying that dads don't get babies. But, like a female and a female, they've both been through it. So like I feel like if somebody has questions regarding parenting, or if a woman has a question regarding her baby, I mean, she's going to ask her mom.
Yeah, definitely.
She's going to want to ask her mom. And even if I was in your position, I wouldn't ask my dad. I mean, no offense to him, but like, you just won't.
Right. And I'm very lucky. I have an awesome dad who like my mom and dad were divorced 15 years.
Okay.
20 years, like a long time. I found out because my sister found my mom. And so then she called me, and I live 6 hours away. And so I called
to drive.
I called my dad. I was like, heads up, I'm hitting the road, blah, blah. Mom died. And he's like, are you kidding me? You are not driving. Like, that's a horrible plan. I'm like, how am I supposed to get there? Blah, blah. He's like, go to the airport. Here's your ticket number. And so like, he bought me a ticket to fly down.
Dad.
Like even though like they weren't still married, he was like, he's been there for me and my siblings, which has been really, it's so different. Like a dad relationship with your daughter. And I feel like I'm really close with my dad. It's different than what I would talk to my mom about.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think that's where a lot of the struggle comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just all there is to it. Like, you can't really ask your dad certain things.
Yeah.
But
like most dads might not remember exactly baby years as much as the women do, because they're doing the day-to-day, everyday stuff.
I mean, heck, even if somebody is being pregnant, I mean, men can't have babies. So
exactly.
Yeah. So do you did you just learn to just not ask anyone those questions, that you would ask your mom, or do you turn to other mother figures in your life?
Well, that has been kind of difficult, and I'm still kind of dealing with that. So I have a great in-law family.
Okay.
Wonderful. I love them. They live close to me. They come over and help with the babies. They're great. For quite a while, and sometimes if I'm having a hard day still, I get kind of pissy about the whole situation. And what is going on? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, your mom's alive and that makes me mad. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but you get your mom and I don't. And I'm not wishing your mom to be dead. I love her. Like, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
I just I could ask my mom and not yours.
And I'm just mad about that right now.
Right? And he's like, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm like, I don't think there's anything
I don't want you to do anything other than understand why I'm mad and not get mad at me for being mad.
Exactly. That's gotten a little bit better lately, just because as the twins get older, oh my gosh, 2 babies is insane. Absolutely insane.
I can't imagine people have triplets or
right? You'd have to hire someone to just live with you at that point.
To carry them.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's been hard. My sister and I have grown a lot closer since mom died.
Okay, so you said she lives in Nebraska?
Yep.
Okay.
The rest of my whole family lives in Nebraska. So my sister and I had never been all that close. I left for college when she was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
And I never moved back home. I didn't want to move back home. I didn't really like it. And so her and I were never all that close. And then after mom died, we kind of started to talk to each other more and lean on each other more. So the things that I would talk to my mom about, I have been talking more to my sister about. And she doesn't have the answer. She doesn't know, but she can be like, I'd ask mom that too.
Is she a parent too?
She's not a parent, no.
Okay. I was like, I feel like it would be really helpful if she was a parent. Then it's like we can both struggle with this together.
Yeah. But it's more like, yeah, I get it. I'm sorry you can't ask mom, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and then when she becomes a parent, I'm hoping that she'll reach out to me because I'll be like, yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Or her even, I mean, she'll probably reach out to you more so, I would assume, than her in-laws. But
yeah.
I mean, it still sucks, but at least you have your in-laws who have had babies before and they're closer. I think maybe if they weren't closer, that would almost be harder for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so do you think it like is different with obviously it's different with your kids' ages, but do you think in certain phases of your kids' lives you would ask, like, you need her for more questions?
Yes. I've been really wishing I could talk to my mom about my 14-year-old lately.
Oh.
That is a sucky age. Like, the kids are mean and the hormones are raging. And I know that I was a horrible teenager. Like, honestly, I was a horrible teenager. So I'd be like, what did you do? How did you deal with me?
And we don't realize that. Like,
right?
We don't, it's like, I should have asked you this a long time ago, but.
Yeah. But how did you make it through? I know we got our kids. Like, a year later, I called my mom and I was like, I would just like to apologize from everything from the ages of, like, I don't know, 10 to 20. Just everything in there, my bad. And she's like, and it was really a fun conversation that we had.
That's funny. Yeah, I feel like I feel like there'll be certain ages where kids kind of become like stagnant when it comes to parenting almost, like, past like elementary, like 3rd grade to like 5th grade, and then middle school's awful, and then high school years and when they're babies until they go to kindergarten.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like maybe like even potty training, I mean, that can be taxing in itself. So
yeah. It's hard in different ways. Like, when we first brought the babies home from the hospital, it was super hard because they like were up all the time. And my mom was a mom where, like, I could call her in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. if I couldn't sleep, and she'd answer her phone.
Yeah.
And talk. And so, like, other people have told me, you can call me whenever. But like, and I think they need it too. Like, I know that if I called them, they would talk to me or come over or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, you just want to call your mom. And so if you can't, you don't want to call anybody else.
Yeah, it's definitely there's really no other way to put that other than what you said.
It's true. And so she would have been there, but now that they're getting older, they like want to be snuggled more and they only want mom and nobody else and like that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I have arms and 2 babies. It's not like the math doesn't really work out all that great.
Yeah.
So, but are you smiling at me? So there's things I would talk to her about.
Mm-hmm.
But like, mostly what I've been thinking as my older kids get older, like, how did you as a parent manage giving independence? Like, how did you manage when someone wanted to get a job? How did you know what I mean? Like, all of these, as you get older, that because my kids were younger when mom died, we never had those conversations. Like, how did you manage when your kids move out eventually? Or like, what do you do? How do you still support them and love them when they're not here? And that's going to be
almost like a boundary thing, like a boundary with like you and your kids as they get older.
Yeah. Or like, how do I let them know that I'm still their mom? I still love them. And I'm here even if they moved out. Cause like, I never once in my life questioned that my mom loved me and would be here no matter what. And I was like, how did she do that? Do you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. Cause I want them to know, like, they could be 30 if they need me, I'm there.
Yeah. I feel like it's such like a trial and error process, but even more so not having your mom. You're like, I don't know if I'm doing this right until shit hits the fan and it blows up.
Right.
And I'm really doing it wrong. And then it's like, all right. I mean, it's like, do I just know that you love me because we had a good relationship? Or, and kids are going to go through those phases. They're going to be teenagers. They're going to be like, no, mom, like, that's just how kids are.
Yeah, that's stupid, mom. You don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
my mom was
always
that reminded me that my kids are kids, because I'd get really anxious about like attachment since we didn't have them at babies, my older one, and like all that stuff. And because one of them was being sassy, and my mom would be like, okay, I had you do you know how much you were sassy to me? In a nice way, because she always said things very nicely. But it was basically like, I had you and you were sassy to me. So like, I don't think this is an adoption issue. This is just a kid issue.
Oh.
Okay. And it was good to be reminded sometimes, like, oh yeah, they're kids. Sometimes they can be buttheads. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like how you like throughout the whole like helping your kids grieve thing, because I wouldn't really, think about that. People ask me, like, people already don't know how to be there for people like us.
Right.
And it's like, okay, like it's just a friend, like it's not that big of a deal, but it really makes you think, because then when you have your own kids to help and you're trying to help yourself,
yeah,
it's like, I can't do it all. And that just, I feel like completely changes the family dynamic. And it's like, if your kids aren't old enough, they might not understand, but everybody has to understand. Everybody has to work together.
Well, no matter how young they are, like they're still going to know something's up. Even if all they know is my mom is sad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They still know something's up. So that first year after she died, I really struggled between taking care of myself and just getting through the day and being like, I fed them, I made sure they showered, they had clothes, you know what I mean? Like they were safe and well cared for, but I wasn't really available as I usually am with them. Do you know what I mean? More short-tempered, much more irritable, much more like, just do it. Like, I'm not having this conversation, just do what I've asked. And if they wanted to talk about something like really deep, I was kind of like, let's do that later. Like, I can't right now.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that a week after my mom died, their birth grandma died.
Oh, geez.
So it kind of just coalesced into like a year of death, it felt like almost. Like we were talking about it a lot. We were processing it a lot. And so whatever I was able to process and talk about it with the kids, because they had questions and what happened there, like all those types of things, I felt like I was exhausted for days.
You will be.
We can't have this conversation again till next week because I can't.
Yeah. And I feel like too, you have to talk to them all differently because they're different ages.
Exactly. And
one is going to understand more. So it's like, I don't have to do it once. I have to do it 3 times.
Exactly.
I don't even want to do it once.
Not even once. No. Yeah. And you can't really do it around the other. I found that it's best to take them aside and do it individually, because if you try and talk about, someone will pipe in and then we'll get onto like their grief instead of this person's grief. And some are more, I don't want to say public in their grief, but are more demonstrative. Like they grieve loudly and publicly. Whereas others, it's kind of harder to spot what's going on with them. Like they tend to keep it close to the vest. And so it's good to like and be like, hey, I've been thinking a lot about grandma lately. I'm just wondering if you have too, and kind of opening them up. Because then when they get open, they want to talk. But sometimes it's hard to open them up.
So do you think like, I mean, I know that you said talking to like your mother-in-law really helped, but if there was like, I mean, it's going to be obviously something that I'm sure like everybody struggles with it their whole life, but like regards to like parenting, is there one thing or like one instance that really just kind of not gave you a sense of peace, but just kind of like helped put you at ease having your mom through that?
For me, honestly, it's been talking to my sister. She doesn't have kids, but I realized that I don't think what I wanted from my mom was advice or ideas. I don't think that's what I got from her. And if I want advice, ideas, I know I have tons of people I can ask, other parents, people at church, my mother-in-law, but it was more the support that I'm here. That sucks. Like, I'm sorry. And for me, it's helpful to talk to someone who knows why I'm talking to them. Not that I wouldn't be talking to my sister otherwise, but some of the things I'm talking to her about, I'm talking to her because I can't talk to mom. Yeah. And like, it just goes without saying that I miss her. Do you know what I mean? So that's helpful to find someone that like gets it. It could be like a friend or someone, but for me, it's my sister. Like she gets it. And she's like, yeah, well, if mom were here, she'd probably say things that I hate it. Take it one day at a time, do the best you can. I would roll my eyes as a teenager whenever she said these things to me.
Yeah. So well, that's good that you point that out, like knowing what it is, like, especially, in general, when it comes to like your mom, but I think it's really important to know, like, okay, if you're calling your mom about your kids, like it's important to know what is it that you wanted from your mom. Did you want advice? Did you want comfort? Because then that helps you in your grief, and that helps you figure out like ways to manage it. I can go to this person, and I feel like it's really smart, and it makes a lot of sense that your sister would be there to help comfort you because she lost her mom too.
Exactly.
And it was the same person, and she knows it seems to me that she would know what your mom would say.
Oh yeah.
And that's like the next best thing.
Yeah. And I think that was one of my biggest struggles those first year, because I was trying to fill my mom's role, but I wasn't filling it inappropriately, like with drugs or alcohol, but I would ask people that would give me advice, other moms at church, my mother-in-law, who loved me completely, but looking for advice. I wasn't looking for that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so I felt frustrated, but it wasn't by anything they were doing. It was just like, I'm missing something, and I wouldn't be missing it if mom was here, and I don't even know what I'm missing right now, but it's something.
How did you figure out what it was that you were missing from your mom?
I figured out only after my sister and I, we went on a vacation together. Every year since mom died, we've been doing girls' trips. My sister, me, and my cousin. I'd been going on a girls' trip, just us, no kids, no boyfriends or husbands, just us.
Yeah.
It was after that trip where I was like, you know what? I'm not feeling like I'm really missing mom right now. Like, I miss her, and we talked about her. I'm like, what is it? And I think it was just that support and someone that gets it, and like the link to the past. Because I miss mom telling me, like, when you were 8 years old, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And like, so like Maggie was there. She was younger, but like she was there. She remembers, and she can make fun of me for some of my childhood choices and all of that, you know? So I think it's a combination of that, just that link to the past, that you're not just alone in the universe, even though I know I'm not alone, blah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but no, that makes sense. It's like you called your mom. It's like, okay, I'm having problems with this kid. And it's like you called your mom, and your mom was like, oh, well, like, you're not alone because I had the same issues with you.
exactly.
Kind of thing. You know? So that's where like the support comes in. And obviously, since your sister is your sister, I'm sure that she heard plenty of stories saying that, like, hey, mom would just be like, this is normal. This happened when I was raising you as well.
Yeah.
Just because I think that's where a lot of issues come in with parenting. It's like, what do I do? Is this normal? Like, obviously, like, if my kid breaks their leg, I need to take them to the hospital.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but like, if a kid, like, there's a crazy thing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I notice even with myself sometimes, I'm like, I have this like bump, like, I had some red spot on my toe, and I was like, is this a blister? Like, is this normal? But if a kid asked me, I'd be like, I have no idea. I've never seen this before. Let me call my mom. But I'm sure your sister would probably, you know, if something happened like that when you were a kid, which it happened, they're kids.
Right? Yes.
You know, that's like, so it's not like your sister's going to be clueless. It's not like she's not going to know.
Yeah. And I think another part of it is, like, I would talk to her when my kids are being, like, especially naughty, like if they were sneaking, making YouTube videos or, you know what I mean? And so, like, I didn't necessarily, I love my mom. She was good at so many things. Many things she was good at. She was not a very good disciplinarian.
Oh, man.
At all. Like, not even a little. I would just, like, give her my big sad eyes, and she'd be like, okay, well, don't do it again. And then, like, I'd do it again, and nothing would happen.
It was almost a pushover.
Oh, for sure.
That's
sure.
So funny.
And it was like, I had it really good because she'd fall asleep on the couch, and I'd get home late, and she'd be like, why'd you get home late? Oh, what are you talking about? I woke you up and told you I was home. Oh, okay. Like, I didn't. Like I said, bad teenager. But I would talk to them, or I would talk to my mom about, like, oh my gosh, like, this kid, I don't know what I'm doing. I just feel like I'm messing them up, or like I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So it was more like a, mom, do I suck at being a mom? Like, you're a mom, and I think you're a pretty good mom. Can you tell me if I suck at being a mom? It was more those kinds of conversations.
Okay, no, yeah, that makes sense. So do you think it's been, like, I guess, more challenging versus almost questioning something obvious, if that makes sense, or like thinking something is, like, not obvious? So, like, questioning, like, hey, mom, like, is this really okay, even though you know that it's not okay, but you want her assurance that, like, it's not okay if, like, your kids do something, or, you know, something happened to them in school or something like that, versus something a little bit more simple that you
Yeah.
could really find out, like my kid has a temperature of 103 and is having XYZ symptoms. What could it be? Like, which situation have you found has been more challenging?
I have found more challenging in the kind of more gray situations, in the how do I respond to this? What do I do?
Yeah.
Doing what is right. Like when we adopted, or we haven't adopted yet, when we got the foster babies, the twins placed with us, it brought up a ton of issues with my older kids on birth family stuff, remembering why they were placed into foster care. All stuff like, why did birth mom try and stay sober for these babies and not when I was growing, and like a bunch of stuff. And there would be like, did we just really mess the whole family by agreeing to take these babies on?
Oh, because it's harder with like the older kids.
Yeah. So like those are the kind of things I would have reached out to my mom for. Like, did we just mess up everything? Am I like doing therapy for years? And so I talked to my husband. He's like, I mean, I get why you would think that because it is harder, but other people have said that it's an adjustment regardless of how you have kids, bringing new kids. Like, I get that. But it's probably what my mom would say, be like,
but still, your mom's not there to say it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, no, that makes sense. And I didn't even think about it when you said that they were half foster kids. I was like, wait, they have the same mom.
The same birth.
So I was like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm like, they're not asking questions about their dad. So it's a double whammy that they're asking you questions about their mom. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't even have my mom. So like, I definitely can't answer your question.
And then a lot of the like, why can't she be good? Why can't she do this? Why can't birth mom take care of them? And then more questions, just, it's a lot of questions. And then they miss their birth mom. And I'm like, oh, I can relate to you on that. Like, regardless of what she did or didn't do, or reason she can or cannot keep you, I get it. You don't have your birth.
That's a really good like point.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed, I know sometimes like people have like told me in the past, they're like, it's like my mom died. And I'm like, swerve, that pisses me off. But do you like, have you run into that with your kids? Like,
we have, because we don't have any contact. I mean, I have contact with the birth mom, but the kids don't, because she has to be a year sober before we'll do contact.
Okay.
And that hasn't happened as of yet. When it does happen, we're open to pursuing that. I have absolutely no issues them knowing that they're adopted, knowing their birth family, just for their safety. That's what the judge said we should probably do. So
yeah.
But I mean, to them, for all intents and purposes, it's kind of like their birth mom died. She's not a part of their life. They don't have any, you know what I mean? Like day-to-day life. So, and then my oldest daughter, before she went into foster care, she lived with her grandma.
Okay.
Quite a while. So her grandma was a primary caretaker.
Yeah.
So my mom died a week later that birth grandma died.
Oh, geez. So that was, and she's the oldest, she understands more.
Mm-hmm. And for her, it was like a parent figure died because she was.
It's like you lost two moms.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, I think that was a really big struggle. That week was just horrible. Like, it was just so bad.
That's right. You've come a long way. It hasn't even been 2 years, if my math is right.
It was just 2 years in March. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, the first year, I feel like at this phase, it becomes like a blur.
It really does. Like,
heaven forbid something like terrible, like not terrible, like with your kids, like hopefully it's not something like detrimental where it's like, oh my God, I really need like my mom for this, because the first year, you get over that hump and you're ready. And then things like to like be thrown at you. So it's like, I remember I lost my mom's mom 2.5 years after I lost my mom.
Oh.
And I live with my mom's mom. So I'm just like, by the time, it's just like by the time that you're going to be ready, like to grieve, like your mom, like hopefully.
Right.
So at least, I mean, it still sucks that your kid's birth grandma passed not long after your mom. Mm-hmm. But I would rather it happen a week apart than like 2 years.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think we're dealing with a lot of family stress right now because my mom's mom is also alive, and she is and is going to be selling their house. She's a sole caretaker for my developmentally delayed uncle and is looking for those. So it's my brother lives in Omaha, and my mom's brother and sister have been like amazing coming up and helping with stuff. But me and Maggie are like, you know what? This sucks because mom would be here. Mom would be working through, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
doing this, she would be here. So just, I think when things come up, especially with family issues, it's like no one has said, oh, Rosemary, that's what I'm saying. Like she would have been here. She would have done this. Like no one said that, but we all know
It goes
like,
unsaid.
she would have been there. Yeah.
So do you find yourself like, I feel like, I mean, when I had a lot of issues, I never really went to my grandma. I think it's also, I mean, also because my grandma was 82. So I was like, I'm not gonna like talk to her about this at all. Cause she, I mean, losing my mom pretty much is what killed her at that point. So have you found yourself like, especially when it comes to parenting, like, I mean, your grandma probably knew the struggles that your mom had with you and your other siblings. So have you tried, or have you ever like try to like almost reach out to your grandma, or is it the same type of thing? Because it might, I mean, it's different than like it's her daughter.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. And when we were younger, my grandma and grandpa live in Omaha. My mom did too. My mom worked full time. So we spent our summers at grandma and grandpa's house. Mm-hmm. We spent nights over there after school, before school, every day there. Like that was like our second home. So they would know better than most what I was like as a child because like they were there, they took care of me.
It's like, especially in the summer, like, oh Lord, you got the hellions with you.
Right. And then they had I have a brother and a sister. They had us three and then my cousin. So they had just like this whole menagerie of people.
Oh, wow. Well, at least you can relate having 5 kids. Hopefully they're like.
Yeah. So it has never crossed my mind to reach out to her about parenting stuff. And I think part of that has to do with, I kind of want to protect her from thinking about my mom's dying. I know she thinks about it 100%. I know that, but I also cannot imagine what it's like to lose a child.
Yeah. I mean, I can barely handle this.
Right. And I'm like, it is natural for children to bury their parents at a certain age. I mean, I feel like it was too young for me at 30, but I feel like it is natural for that to have happened.
Yeah. It's not,
it's ever natural for a parent to have to bury a child. Do you know what I mean?
Is your mom's mom, is she older?
Yeah, she's 87, 86.
Oh, wow. So yeah, I mean, I totally see what you mean. And I feel like that's a really sticky situation. Like, I feel like it's hard. It's like, okay, like, you know that they would know, and you know that like they would be able to help you, especially since your sister doesn't have kids. Mm-hmm. So it's like in that facet, when it comes to advice, it's like like you said, you want to protect her. You don't want to make it worse for her. And like, she's already taking care of your uncle. And I mean, I feel like a ton of people struggle with that if their mom's mom is still alive. And
because it's a hard, because you want them, but at the same time, you're like,
especially younger. I mean, unless you're like in your 50s and you lose your mom, I wouldn't expect that your mom's mom wouldn't be alive.
Yes. But if you're like 30s or younger or whatever.
Yeah. You're pretty much younger than 40. It could be.
And I think that's just an awkward situation because you're grieving your mother, which is a huge relationship in a life. And your grandmother understands that because like my mom's grandma, my mom's mom's mom has died. So like she gets losing a mom. She totally gets it. But like I can't relate to her grief. And so part of it, now that I'm thinking about it, if I'm being honest, her grief kind of scares me. The thought of losing a child is really scary.
Yeah.
Losing a mom's hard enough. So
do you think it would make you feel selfish? I noticed I felt that way a little bit. It'd almost be like I would reach out to you for you to help me, but it's like, what can I help you with?
Yeah. I get,
And everybody has their own way of grieving, but if I were to think about me losing a kid, I don't know if I would want to talk to my kids' about it. I would want to find my own niche of people that have lost a kid too.
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of like when I want to talk about mom, I don't go to people that have lost like an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like unless they lived with these people and they were like primary caretakers, it's completely
and different. Even then, it's still
your mom. Like it's
just, and I feel like I've realized too, like it doesn't really matter how close you are, and if you can't prepare yourself for it, like it sucks regardless. But I really like what you said about like not thinking about, asking your mom's mom because you have a good point. It's like, and I don't know why I would feel the same way. I mean, do you really think that there's a reason? I mean, obviously you said, you are trying to like protect her, but do you think it's something because you're not talking to the person that has the same relationship that you had with your mom, like your sister?
Yeah,
like,
it might be. Because I feel like I relate more to my sister. She's my sister. But like we're in the same process and phase in our grief, pretty much.
Yeah. You both lost the same person and it was the same relationship to you.
Yes. And we're still in the same, like some days I wake up and I want to call her and I'm like, oh yeah, long distance doesn't reach that far. Like, ugh. Yeah. So, and we've never really talked about as a big family besides me and Mike. I mean, of course, at the funeral and after that kind of stuff, but
yeah,
it's not something where I think everyone in the family is super comfortable about.
They're not.
The loss of my mom has affected them. Like she has brothers and sisters, a brother and 2 brothers and a sister.
Mm-hmm.
She has grandkids. Like I think everyone's at such a different spot and we're all grieving so differently that and not to talk about it, except for me and my sister talk about it a ton. Because we kind of know where each other's coming from.
Yeah. I was about to say, so do you notice so I only have a brother, but I have noticed a lot. And I mean, especially, I feel like when it comes to parenting too, it seems to be that, you'd reach out to your sister more than your brothers because women might think the same way. Is that a valid assumption?
I think it could be. I don't know that it is in my situation.
Okay.
I think that there's very unique family dynamics.
Very much so.
Make it really difficult at times to reach out to people. And part of that is me just avoiding because I don't want to deal with the drama.
Yeah. And people aren't, everybody grieves differently. People don't aren't comfortable talking about it. So I'm sure, you might have a brother or a sibling who it's like if you have more than one sibling, I feel like a lot of people will ask and it would come up, well, why don't you talk to all of your siblings the same way that you would talk to this sibling? And I'm like, exactly. It doesn't work out like that.
Yeah. And I think part of it has to do with, I don't want to say selfish because that's not the correct word, kind of like protecting myself. Like after the first year, there was only so much that I could take.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I reached out to certain people, it would be more drama than help.
And it's not worth it.
I'm like, I can't right now. Like I literally cannot do more than I'm doing.
Yeah.
So like that means not reaching out to that specific person for right now, then I'm just not going to because I can't.
Mm-hmm. And there's certain people, regardless of you struggling with your parenting or regardless of somebody struggling with their grief, there's going to be certain people that you can talk to about just the idea of losing your mom in general. There's going to be certain people that you can talk to about your parenting problems, and I think it's very important for people to know who those people are in their life.
Yeah.
Because, it's trial and error. You have to talk to people about whatever it is that you're struggling with to find that person.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of issues come in. People don't want to keep talking about it because they don't want to have to make the effort to find that person, Yeah.
And I think it's really important to remember, and I think I've noticed this, especially since my mom has died, that relationships are different. So for example, no one has ever said this, but if someone would have said, oh, it's so good that your dad is still alive, so you have someone. And no one's ever said that. And I love my dad with all my heart. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Go do vacations together. But what I would talk to and do with my dad is so different than what I would do with my mom. So the fact that he's alive right now doesn't dissipate the grief I feel about my mom. Do you know what I mean?
A lot of people say that. They're like, well, you saw one parent living. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Especially when it comes to those such important things. Parenting is, it's there will be milestones in life where you wish you had your mom, but a wedding happens once a year. Most of the time it happens one day and it's over. There's always that grief leading up to it, but I feel like afterwards, and I'm not saying that afterwards it ever really goes away, but it's my mom's not here for me to support me through my marriage. Okay, well, that's different than you not having your mom to support you through your wedding.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So, like, but having, and like I hear that a lot, but like having your mom, like not having your mom to help you through your parenting, that doesn't just start and stop.
Yeah. Like parenting lasts for forever. Or like, oh, it's so good that your mom made it till you were 30 or that you grew up and you were an adult when she died.
It doesn't matter. Your life's not over.
Exactly. And like
I feel like a lot of people think that. I mean, yeah, when you're younger, there's a lot more milestones that your like mom misses out on. But, and I notice a lot too. I don't know, it would be nice like to get other people's perspectives that haven't, whose parents like didn't meet their kids. It's all like, it's great to see everybody's perspective, but I've like found that, I was 18 when I lost my mom, so I'm still really young, but I'm terrified to have kids now and terrified to get married because how am I going to do without my mom?
Yeah.
And
my sister is at, because she is in a long-term relationship and talking about marriage and having kids. And I think it's unique. My situation is very unique because I have kids that met my mom and I have kids that haven't met my mom.
And so exactly, but you get a double whammy. So you're like, it's hard enough to manage one facet of it.
Right.
So now to manage.
Yeah. And I feel like the kids that have met my mom, it's harder to manage their grief about my mom. And
that's
the kids
interesting.
Didn't meet my mom, it's harder to manage my grief about that.
So do you think that, I feel like, your kids could ask your husband questions about like your mom, and I'm sure that they could turn to him in their grief. But at the end of the day, there's things that daughters know about their moms that nobody else knows. And it's not intentional. That's just like the way that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So then it's like that makes it harder on you because they can't always go to your husband about things.
Yeah. And they don't. 9 times out of 10, if it's something more emotionally deep or grief related, it's me. And I get that. And I'm glad they do. I want them to come to me.
But some days you
like
just have to, you have to put up boundaries. And that's one thing that I've learned. Oh my God, I'm still learning. That's been one of the hardest parts about this.
Yeah, or like when we would be going to church that first year after mom died, like most of the times I would just cry. And so my middle daughter would be like, what happened? And after like 10 or 12 weeks in a row of her being like, what happened? I finally said, Grandma died. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm still sad about this. Like,
it's nothing happened. It's the same thing that's been happening since this amount of time. It's going to be like this for forever.
For a while.
I might cry. I might not cry every day for a month.
Yeah.
But if I randomly break out in tears, it's probably because of the same issue.
Exactly. Like, it's not a surprise. I'm not like hiding things from you. Because I think she thought maybe someone else died or something else happened. I'm like, no, same
thing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious okay, you're 3 older ones. You have 2 boys and a girl?
2 girls and a boy. The 10 and 14 are girls.
Okay.
And the 8-year-old's a boy. And then
a middle one, that's a boy. So
yes.
How, through the parenting and them being older and knowing your mom, and you said that their grief has probably been the hardest part. Have you noticed a difference with the boy versus the girls?
Yes, but I'm not sure if it's a boy versus girl difference or personality difference. Because my girls are very much leaders. They want to be in charge of things. They want to make the rules and do their own things. And Preston, my boy, is very much a follower.
Okay.
So I know little boys that are little leaders. So I think it's more of a personality thing. Also, he's a mama's boy, like a complete mama's boy. So for a while, he was like he wasn't mad at me. That's not the right word. But he was a little standoffish because I was standoffish. And I think he was feeling that, you know what I mean?
From you almost?
Yes. Yeah. Like the first month or 2 after mom died, I was kind of like, I'll feed you and I'll clothe you and you can stay here. But beyond that, I don't know what I can give you.
Yeah.
Emotional support is not existent right now. And I'm really sorry about that. But here's dad. And so you can just.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I always hear like men and males handle grief so much differently. But it's almost like, I feel like that's if they're grown. Because a lot of times I feel like if kids are younger and their siblings are grieving or their parents are grieving, they learn. Yeah. And they adapt to whoever is grieving around them. But I notice a lot, like with my older brother, like, he was 21, but that was very like just apart. So it's always interesting to look at, the gender, well, a sex or gender, I don't know the right verbiage is, the differences between girls and boys, and I mean, even their age. So that's nice that you don't really think it's a boy or girl thing. That
it seems more of a personality.
because I feel like that would make it so much harder for you. You know, if you had like, because I mean, there's going to be things that women don't understand about men and men don't understand about women. It's just genetics, biology. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like having that mother-son relationship is more nurturing rather than you trying to talk to your brother about it.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm glad to hear that that's not been super taxing.
Yeah. And I think I've been very open. I've made a lot of health changes since my mom died.
Yeah, well,
because I want to be around. Like, that's my goal. I'm not dying when I'm 59 years old. So, like, a month before you retire, that's not what I want to do with my life. So, I had a huge problem with weight, and so I actually had gastric bypass in October.
Oh, wow.
I struggled with her weight too, and they think that probably contributed to whatever it is that happened.
Yeah.
And so sat the kids down and we told them, like, I'm having a surgery. The surgery is to get healthy. I don't care if I'm like supermodel skinny, but I'm working hard to parent you and make you into productive members of society. And I am not going to skip on the fun of spoiling as a grandma. Like, grandma's
productive members of society. I love it.
That's my goal. Productive. No jail. I mean, we're good. No jail and have a job.
So have you noticed, like, for the parenting thing, like, has it been harder for you for your kids, like, just in general, asking about your mom or asking about, like, how it happened? Because I find myself being way more comfortable talking about my mom, but talking about how it happened, there's some things that you just don't remember. I mean,
sure.
Like, it just becomes a blur, but like the details aren't what's important. I think it's more important to let people know, like, this is the kind of person that my mom is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sorry, do you get what I'm asking?
Yes, I do. And I think when it first happened, there were a lot more questions as to how and why, especially because she wasn't sick and it was so unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of well, if I fall asleep, am I going to die? Because, like, if people die in their sleep, so, I mean, like, there's like,
how do you answer that?
Right? There was 2 weeks where my middle daughter just wouldn't sleep. She had these huge bags under her eyes.
Bless her heart.
I know. And I was like, I totally get where you're coming from. Like, that's a normal anxiety to have.
Don't have an answer for you.
Right? And I said,
and that sucks because you want to give them an answer. It's like, nobody has an answer.
Yeah. Or, are you going to die, Mom? And I'm like, so my go-to right now is, you know what? I'm doing everything I can to be healthy and stay around for a long time. But in the end, I have no idea. Yeah. So I'm just going to live the life I want to right now.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there's nothing I can do, and there's nothing you can do either. Yeah. My middle daughter, Kayla, that's a bad answer. Like,
no. Oh, God, bless your heart. And I feel like, too, that it's hard, like, you know, kids ask those kinds of things. Like, you almost, like, would have expected that. But, I mean, regardless if you expect it or not, it doesn't, I mean, even if you don't know how to answer it, it doesn't make the situation better that you don't know how to answer it.
Exactly. And I think at first it was more those type of questions. And now it hasn't been questioned so much as, oh, we usually did a summer trip with Grandma. Do you remember that, Mom? Yeah, we would go to Des Moines or Sioux Falls, I remember. Or, oh, Grandma usually said us Easter things. It was more like they're remembering things out. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember. That was super fun. And they just got little iPod touches that they think are phones. They're not, but they think they are. And so they're like, can you send me some pictures of Grandma? And I'm like, sure. Funny. So it's more that type of questions or comments right now. Or like, Mom, do you ever think about Grandma? Like, what was my oldest? One of the older 3 asked me if I ever thought about her. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
that's funny. I was about to say, so I mean, obviously things get, you know, easier, but do you think, like, now their grief is better and, like, more in control? So, like, and if it is, do you think that that's helping you? Because you said, you know, one of the hardest parts was, you know, without not having your mom through the parenting, is managing their grief and your grief. But do you think their grief doesn't need to be, like, managed as much now? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I think their grief mirrors my grief, and I'm not sure if it's just because that's the trajectory of grief, or if they're like getting their cues from me. I'm not sure what come first, chicken or the egg in that situation. But as my grief has become more manageable for me, and there'll be days where, like, have you heard of the analogy of like a box and a ball?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, it's a great analogy. Okay, so there's this like shoebox or whatever, and there's a button where if you hit the button, you have grief. And at the beginning, when someone dies, the ball like takes up the whole box. So like every little tiny movement hits the grief button.
Uh-huh.
And then over time, the ball gets smaller. And so it has more room to bounce, but it still hits a grief button. And then when it does, it still hurts just as bad.
Cool. Okay, so is this like a grief analogy or like a... Interesting. I'll have to look for that.
I read it online somewhere. It was really interesting. And so I think as their ball gets smaller and my ball gets smaller, we have more time between dealing with the grief.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like Absolutely. The waves come as quickly. And so that makes me feel like I can do it more because it's not every 5 minutes or every day or those things. Like I can get myself together before it happen again with them.
And I mean, it's hard. There's like ways to manage grief, like your grief, and your kids' grief, but there's no right answer. Like when you're saying like, oh, I think their grief is mirrored by my grief. That makes 110% like sense, but we don't know. Like,
right?
I mean, and I feel like there's ways for women to manage the grief of losing their mom. But there are different ways for women to manage their kids' grief of losing their grandma, which was also the woman's mom, Exactly. So,
and I think there's another facet of this that caused me so much anxiety. And my husband's like, you really don't need to worry about this. This is not like, okay, so here's my thinking. I lost my mom. I have to live without my mom.
Yep.
My kids are watching me, figuring out how I'm grieving. Okay. Not only are they figuring out how I'm grieving so that they can figure out how to grieve their grandma, but in my mind, I'm giving them the blueprint on how to grieve a mom. So when I die and they're still alive, they're going to think back and be like, what happened when mom's mom died? How did she handle that? And that was like, because I am. Like, I never watched my mom grieve a mom because her mom's still alive.
Oh, that's like, a good point.
I never really experienced that, but my kids are going to be like, oh, I remember when grandma died and mom was really sad for a while and blah, blah. And so I'm like, I feel like I'm giving them this blueprint and I just really hope it's a healthy one. Like,
I mean, there's not really a healthy or not. I mean, you got to do what you got to do. And I think, heaven forbid, when they lose a mom, that they will understand that if they don't understand that now. But you didn't understand that because you didn't have, you didn't see your mom grieve the loss of her mom.
Right. And she grieved the loss of her dad. Her dad died when I was in high school. So I saw that, but it felt different.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. So that's, I mean, you 100% bring up a good point, but I think like they might be too young to realize it now, but you were grieving and there's not a right or wrong way to grieve or not like a healthy or unhealthy way to grieve, but there are healthy and unhealthy and good and bad decisions that come from grieving. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And since you have made healthy decisions as a result of that, I think they will realize that you showed them like a good outcome of this and like ways to take care of themselves and have a good like lifestyle almost.
But I think that gives such a good picture as to what it's like to grieve a parent when you have kids. Like, it's not just about you. Like, you think about all of these things about your kids and how your kids are going to be impacted and how they're going to watch. Like, it's so much more complicated when you have kids already.
That does make sense. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize it, especially a lot of women, if they lose their mom when they're young, because they don't have to worry about anyone but themselves. And I mean, it's hard in different ways because what 18-year-old knows how to grieve? I mean, none. But I mean, you completely have other people to think about, and it's just a whole new. I mean,
and still trying to think about yourself and figure out what you are going to do, because it felt like I had to figure out who I was again.
And that'll be a process for a while. But do you think that your grief managing your grief is more important than managing your kids' grief? Because I would think, I mean, I think there's a time to be selfish and a time to not be, but how did you like work around that?
I think that 100% managing my grief is more important than managing my kids' griefs. And I keep going back to when you're on an airplane, you got to put your mask on first.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I can't manage their grief if I'm dying, like inside. Like I can't. So I tried to walk that line that first year between figuring things out for me and being there for them. It way tipped to the side of figuring things out for me because my family was awesome. My husband like would let me go to bed when he got home and like do whatever you know what I mean? Like let me have that time, which was amazing. But I do think it's important to figure your stuff out first. Be open with the kids. Like, you know what? I'm having a really sad day today. Like I can't right now. Yeah. But like, want to talk about it later? You know, I'm here. I can't right now. And just letting them.
I'm glad that you were able to do that with your husband because, you know, if you didn't have kids, you would be able to manage your grief. And then say you were pregnant and then had kids a year later. By the time that your kids would grieve in their own way, you would have already had the time to manage your grief. But you're trying to manage your grief and manage their grief. And that's just.
Yeah. Well, because like with the babies, by the time they're old enough to realize they had a grandma, and it'll have been years and years and years later for me.
Yeah,
and so
you'll be in a much better place.
Exactly. Like, it'll still be hard. I'll still like grief is forever, but I'll be able to be like more centered about it. Whereas that first week when they're like, "Grandma's dead," and I'm like, "Yep, she's dead." Like that was.
Yeah, you'll probably be able to like help them more. Well, not help them more, but feel like you're helping them more.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I know that you're helping your kids by grieving. You just might not feel like it. And I think that that's where there's a ton of gray area and just a ton of like struggle. It's like, I don't feel like I'm helping them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure it gets very discouraging.
Having them see you grieve can be really helpful. I feel for them. And maybe I feel that's what happened that whole first year and it makes me feel better to think that.
And it's very important to be open and like, that's like, I'm like, you know what? I'm having a great day today. I'm having a not so great day today. Like this moment was just really hard, but you can't sugarcoat things. You can't say like, you have to tell people how you're feeling, even if you're having a good day, because they need to understand that there's good and bad that comes with it. And especially kids, like if you don't tell them the good, they're only going to see the bad.
Yeah. Or if you try and hide the bad from them and then they grow up and
they're going to get sheltered and they're going to be like, "Oh my God, like, why did my mom act like
everything was fine?
Everything was all fine and dandy to lose her mom because now I'm over here like in the fetal position, crumpled up on the floor. Like, what the heck am I going to do?"
Yeah, exactly.
So that's, if they don't appreciate it now, I know that they will appreciate it then.
Here's hoping it's going to be a long time.
Yeah. Hey, you're doing what you have to do to better your life. And at the end of the day, that's all.
Yes. The kids were very worried about the whole surgery.
You can do.
Because Kayla asked me, I'm middle, can you die during the surgery? And I have a firm no lying to my kids policy.
Yeah.
Except for presents and surprise parties. Firm no lying policy. And so I told her, I'm like, yes, there are people that have died during this surgery. I'm going to Rochester Mayo, one of the best hospitals in the world.
Where is that?
In Rochester, Minnesota, Mayo Clinic.
Oh, Mayo Clinic. Yeah. Okay.
Like, I'm going to one of the best hospitals in the world. It's the head of the department. So is it possible I could die? Yes. Do I think it's likely? No. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this because I'm doing this to live longer.
And kids, I feel like, are just so like, they just take it with a grain of salt. They throw the word dying around like and they don't intend to, but it's, you know what? I appreciate that sometimes because this is something that needs to be talked about. I'm like, y'all want to talk about it? Like, thank you. I am so glad.
Well, and Kayla's my anxious kid, so I honestly think she thought I was going to die, like anxious.
Sad. Yeah.
I was going to die. And so, like, I try and be very open about it and all of that stuff. And I think that's good. But, like, so we've talked about I'm making these different choices. I'm making these healthy choices. I am not saying that grandma died because she was overweight. Absolutely not. We don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we did an autopsy. We have no idea what happened. We know that she went to bed and didn't wake up.
That's it.
But I think in my life and my health that my weight is negatively impacting it.
Yeah.
And I am working hard and I should get to spoil some grandkids for a while. Like that's how it should work. So I'm doing what I can to make that happen. And then my oldest is like, you should just spoil us. Like, no, remember, I have to make you functional members of society.
That's funny. Well, have you noticed, because kids like will talk about like, death and dying, I feel like a decent amount, but do you think that they like throw it around like lightly almost? Like, have you noticed that with your children, or does that make sense?
I don't know if they throw it around lightly. I think whenever they honestly ask me, they're old enough where they think that it might be a possibility. Like my mom's mom was recently admitted to the hospital for an infection.
Yeah.
And the first thing my oldest daughter asked me is she dying? Like, so I think they ask about it more than other kids because they've experienced it more.
Yeah. And they're also older.
And they're older.
I think too, they understand it, a little bit. It's not just like, you can't just say like, I mean, I can't even imagine if you weren't religious what you would say, but
right.
I mean, it's more of like, oh, my mom went to heaven to live with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's what you would have to say almost to a younger kid to get them to understand it.
Yeah.
But I feel like, and I think they'll appreciate too, as they get older, that they understand what it is and that it is a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people are so, I mean, you never want to wish death upon anybody, but some people don't even lose a grandparent until they're in their like mid-20s.
Right. Well, my husband, like his grandpa, one of his grandpas died before he was born, and he lost an uncle that lived far away. But other than that, everyone else is alive in his family.
His grandparents are still alive?
3 out of 4. Yes.
Holy cow.
He's 33 now. So like at some point, and so he struggles to relate to my loss and know what to do with it because he just hasn't experienced it. And so I'm like, oh, whenever that happens, it's going to be so hard. Like I could just preemptively see that that's going to be hard when he loses someone.
Yeah, but I'm glad that your kids are not almost immune to it but it's like you can't make your kids like susceptible to it unless they've been through it.
Exactly.
So it's like that's where you ride a fine line. It's like I don't want you to like you need to know that this is a part of life, but I don't want you to have to know because I don't want you to go through it.
Exactly. Like you need to know that if you ever are faced with this, like you can move on and you can deal with this and you can still live a good life. Mm-hmm. Like your life isn't over because someone's gone.
Yeah.
But you'd ever have to feel like someone's gone and your life could be over because that's a horrible feeling.
Absolutely.
Like, horrible.
Hey friend, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Before you go, I have 3 favors to ask you. First, I wanted to let you know that I host a group for women where we share our day-to-day stories, challenges, and victories. If you want to come along for the ride, head to Facebook and search for Life After Losing Mom Community. Second, if you don't mind leaving me a review and telling me how I've helped you in your grief journey, I would greatly appreciate it. Finally, head to katbonner.com/podcast to access previous episodes and subscribe for episodes in the future.